Now, we've been riding around this new Fat Boy for the last 2 weeks, roughly, since we got back from Tenerife. But this will probably come on in between the Tenerife videos, because I think we want to split them up a little bit in case you get Tenerife overload. But full disclaimer, this bike was sent to us by Harley-Davidson. This is how it works, by the way, for every manufacturer. We get the bike for about 2 weeks. And the manufacturer has absolutely no input into what we say in the video. So it's our opinion, our real opinion. We're not paid by any manufacturer to say anything about their bikes. This is what we think of the motorcycle.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do we think of this motorcycle?
It's a real hunk of metal. It's a gorgeous motorcycle. It's a bit of a brute to handle, isn't it? It's, you know, these big fat tyres make it really follow every undulation in the road. So, you know, you've got to be careful if there's a rut in the road. You know, the bike's going to want to follow it. Yeah. So you've got to really be vigilant as to what lines you take in the road. But it's a lot of fun, and it's very engaging, and it's got so much torque. I cannot believe how much torque this bike's got. And I rode the 114 version of this bike. Was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. And I loved it. I really did. And I think this is really the true, proper essence of Harley-Davidson. It's a proper Harley.
Yeah, I mean, handling-wise, you do have to wrestle it, but I enjoy doing that. It really makes it a nice thing to engage with. Some bikes are sort of so bland that it does everything and there's nothing you have to do. You've really got to work at this. And although Harley-Davidson have now got various safety enhancements, electronic devices and things in the bike, you don't notice them because it's still very mechanical. You've still got that lovely Harley clonky gear change, heavy clutch, you feel the throttle and you feel all the handling and the suspension and the road surfaces. So it's a brilliant bike to ride, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think Harley-Davidson gearboxes are my favourite gearbox. And, you know, some people criticising it for being agricultural. That's what I like about it. I like that you put it in first gear and it goes, you know, everyone around you is going to hear it. It sounds like you're pulling back the, you know, bolt action rifle. It's incredible, but that's engaging. Yeah. That's engaging, you know. And I think that sound, and you hear it throughout the gears as well, clunk up into the gears. I love it. Yeah. The old Harleys were even more so. The old Dyners. I rode a Dyna. Was it a Fat Boy or a Fat Bob? I think it was a Bob. Yeah, it was a Fat Bob. But the gearbox on that really clunked, and it also had sort of a metal echo to it, like a chung, literally like an M1 Garand. If you've played Call of Duty, you'll know that I've never actually shot the real one, but you know, sounds the same. Yeah,
no, it's a phenomenal bike. It is big, it's chunky, it's very wide, it's got a massive road presence. It looks so cool. And this particular colour scheme isn't my favourite, to be honest. I like the special edition colour scheme, that sort of shiny, silvery colour, chromy.
Is it chrome?
I don't know, I can't remember what it's called. We'll put it up on the screen. Beautiful. That's the one I'd go for.
I actually like this colour a lot. I like this sort of orangey, burnt orange look, and I like the black. So I like this colour.
Yeah. Just looking at it now, I mean, we're always going on about mudguards, but although the mudguards are wide, the front one doesn't go down low enough. So you are going to get a mucky bike if you go out in a wet, horrible day. The rear mudguard's perfectly good.
I wouldn't want to ride it on a wet day. I mean, a little bit of rain today, but for me, because there's so much chrome on the engine and stuff, if you ride it in the wet, as with any bike, you should clean it afterwards. Yeah. But especially with this, you know, you want to clean up all that chrome and keep it looking pristine, which does require, you know, a lot of polishing. You do have to polish it a lot.
I'm running with that Ali G sketch with the railings. But the Heritage Classic got a lovely front mudguard, purposefully covering the whole wheel, which is what you want. But you know, that looks okay. The front bit's all right. But
I love the Heritage Classic, actually.
Yeah, well, you need to ride that again. I haven't ridden one since I sold mine.
Well, I've never ridden one, actually.
Haven't you?
No.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's the best looking Harleys. When you take the screen off and the bags,
they are cool.
What a cool looking bike.
Yeah. But what is the coolest Harley in your opinion? Because this is right up there.
Really
where you just had the soft tail Street Bob. Yeah. I'm losing my brain. That was phenomenal as well. Comfort wise, the seat's comfortable, but for me being 6'2" and a bit, I found that rear pad it's just a bit too fat behind me. It pushes me just 2 inches too far forward, so I just feel I want to go back. So I did take it off and try it without it, but because it's got so much torque, I felt I was going to shoot off the back, so I put it back on again.
I didn't find that.
Didn't you?
No.
I would need a different seat, and you can get different seats, so it's not an issue.
Yeah, I found it pretty much a perfect riding position, actually. I like the way the bars come round. Your feet are forward, you've got forward controls, but they're footboards.
Yeah.
And the beauty of that is that you've got 6 inches of play as to where you put your feet. So on the motorway, you know, your knees start to hurt after a couple of hours because they're stuck in the same position on a peg and you can't move them.
No.
Whereas on the board, you can move them around and it just gives you that extra comfort when you're doing a long journey, which I would definitely do a long journey on this bike.
I would too. As a bike goes, I think this would be right up there for me as a second bike to go with my Royal Enfield Bullet 500, which I recently bought, which is a very characterful bike, perfect for the back lanes in the countryside where we live. But this bike would be a good complement to that, which would be better for the longer rides, 2 or 3 hour rides where you want to go on the motorways and things like that.
How often do you do that, though?
Not very often, which is why I bought the Bullet. Yeah. But as I said, if I did, that would be something I would certainly consider. I would say, I still like the Street Bob. We've got the Breakout coming next, so that is a bike I really do love. And we've also got the Lowriders. We've got both the Lowriders, or one of them.
Just the Lowrider S, not the ST.
Okay.
Because I did the ST the other year, and to me, the ST is just the Lowrider S with a big screen, and it doesn't look as nice, and it didn't do as well as the video. So I think the Lowrider S is it's the Sons of Anarchy Harley, isn't it? It looks just like that.
Not my personal taste in terms of looks. They're lovely to ride. Going back to the handling of this one, while I remember it, the rake on this is 30 degrees. That's the angle of the headstock forks normally. But the trail is very short. So you've got this unusual handling, but I think the trail being short is to compensate for the massive fat tyres. Without that, I don't know how well it would handle. So it does, I think it handles really well, but that's a subjective term, isn't it? I like the handling on these much more than a sporty bike with a steep rake. I don't like that at all.
No.
It's very stable, but at the same
stable.
time, it's kind of quite manoeuvrable. So that shorter trail gives you that manoeuvrability.
Yeah, you do find though, because it's a heavy bike, if you're doing a turn, you haven't got the best turning circle.
No.
And, that means that you sort of, when you're manoeuvring, you want to have both your feet out. That's a stupid thing that people seem to, you must have your feet on the pegs at all times or you're not a good rider. Well, if you've got a 300 and something kilogram bike, if it falls, it's going to fall.
Yeah,
so you need your feet out just in case.
If you watch MotoGP, not that I do very often, they often keep their feet hanging out when they go off on the start line, and so do they at drag racing. It's one of those advanced riding things where they say as soon as you start the bike moving, put your feet on the foot pegs, but that's not always the case. You're right.
Yeah.
One thing I love about this fat boy is that fat front end, that headlight, that cowl, that shroud, what you want to call it, over the forks. Oh, I love that. That's such a beautiful part of the bike.
Do you like the sort of squareness at the top of the headlamp?
Yeah.
I mean, the headlamp itself is round, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then the sort of
I do.
cover's square.
Yeah, I like it. And the view from the riding position is very nice as well.
It is, yeah.
And you've got an analog dial on the tank,
Very nice.
which is fine, it's great. Easy to read and easy to look at. So that's good, isn't it? There's a fucking van. Let's wait for it to go. We're at Borough Court today, where we like to come because it's a nice ambiance and sit here with a coffee while we talk about motorcycles. Now, on the new Harleys, you've got ride modes now. You've got rain, road and sport. I hate the word sport. On a bike like this, I don't want the word sport.
Choice, isn't it? It should be
it needs to rename.
beast mode or brute. Or
yeah, think of some names for us. Come on, this needs to be more cool. Beast, brute, and badass, or something, or bull, something.
Bulldozer.
Yeah, something that makes it sound more meaty and like this. Oh, that's cool. So the word sport has no place on a bike like this. And that's another thing. When you ride this, we notice if you're riding along at 50 and you overtake something, and it rips. But the thing is, when you look at the rev counter, you could be starting off at, say, 2,200 RPM.
Even 2,000.
Open it, rips open, and you look at, you've overtaken, you're suddenly doing 75, 80, and it's only gone up 300 RPM, not 3,000 RPM, 300. So it accelerates a massive amount in a small amount of RPM gain, which is what the torque does. Where compared to a very sporty bike, if you've never ridden Harley, you wouldn't get it till you rode one. On a sporty bike, you look at the revs, maybe you're doing 4,000, you overtake, you're doing 9,000 or 10,000 by the time you've done that.
You find that if you want that instant response with a sports bike, you need to be up at 7,000, 8,000 to start with, to then go up to 12,000 or something, whatever it revs to. Whereas this is like 2,500, it's all there. It's like, blimmin' hell. If you're not careful and you're leaning back a bit, relaxing, it can bite your head off.
Very, very muscular.
So muscular.
The torque peaks at 2,750 RPM. I mean, that's so low. Most bikes...
What is it, 165 Newton meters?
Let's have a look. Most bikes will stall at that RPM, you know.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's incredible how 101 horsepower, 165 Newton meters, yeah. And 101 horsepower, 5,020 RPM. Some
Have
people
you ever
say...
revved a Harley to 5,000?
Never.
I've never.
Well, a couple of times.
Not once.
You don't really need to. You tend to short shift these because they've got so much torque, so you ride it
You
in
wanna
the
keep it in the torque band, not the
Same
power
with
band.
the Bullet, actually.
Yeah.
People that don't get those and say, oh, they're so vibey, it's because they're used to revving to the rev limiter before they change gear. So you go, like that, and then, you know, so you don't need to do that on these bikes.
Please don't do
all
that.
about the torque.
Oh, God. Now, this bike, if you think of it as an animal, it's absolutely a massive, extremely terrifying bull that you might see in a field with absolutely massive knackers and huge thighs, massive neck that's like ridiculously big. You can't even tell it's got a neck because it merges as one. This huge, muscular, ginormous thing that's got so much force, you know, so much torque. And if you compare it to something else, like a sports bike, they would be more like a thoroughbred horse. Apart from they don't look very nice, so they don't look like a thoroughbred horse. They look like one that's come out of a weird lab that's been injected by something that's gone horribly wrong and it's nuclear. But that's another story. But this is like the bull compared to the thoroughbred. It's a different riding experience. But the sort of myth that Harley-Davidsons are slow is absolutely not true, especially with these new 117 engines. They are absolutely not slow. They've got plenty of grunt, and they're not like 0 to 60 in 3 seconds like some Ducati or something, but it's a different sensation. You get just as much enjoyment going slower, but keeping it in this torque band, and you know, it's so enjoyable, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, it certainly is. Obviously, Harley-Davidson have had a lot of bad press recently about going woke and all these various things. We're not going to go into that. A lot of it's rumours, a lot of it has to be done because that's the society we live in today. And of course, the prices of these, I haven't even written the price down because
They're not cheap.
If you need to ask about how much it is, you can't afford it because they are very expensive. But the quality is absolutely exemplary. Now, people haters will love to tell you how bad they are. But we've looked at it with a fine-tooth comb, can't see anything wrong with it at all.
Those haters are going off of, you know, because they're, you know, older chaps who've been riding for 60 years and they're going off of what they knew when they were in the 80s or something, you know, and Harleys have moved on a lot since then. Yeah. And these bikes, they're reliable. I had one and I did 5,000 miles with a Milwaukee 8, no problems whatsoever. Apart from, the only problem I had was the throttle sort of cog in the actual throttle. It's made out of plastic. I don't know if it still is, but that broke some teeth. So sometimes you'd open the throttle and nothing would happen, and then it would bind. So that had to be replaced, and then the problem was solved. But they should make that out of metal, really. Yeah. But I don't know if they still are. They might have fixed that. But you won't find that out until you've done 6,000 miles and the problem happens.
Yeah. The one thing we're not keen on now, though, is because of the new technology, the switch gear. Oh, the sun's come out. Yippee! The switch gear is fat, and it doesn't look so nice, does it? Because they used to have quite a nice switch gear on these.
It's too big, actually. It takes if you look at it now, you think it takes up half the
Very
bars.
bulky.
Very bulky.
And sun's gone in. Oh, I'm still there. It's summertime here. You wouldn't believe it, would you? It was freezing. But still, I'm going to have to say the best switchgear on any bike is the Royal Enfield Classic 650.
Yeah.
Beautiful chrome switchgear, nice and minimalistic, very stylish. So there's a lot to be learnt, but I suppose they've got to have a lot of stuff in there. I haven't opened it up to have a look, but it must be a lot of electronics in there.
Well, now they've got cruise control as well as standard, so that's going to take up some space.
I must say though, I don't find this switchgear intuitive, because when I've been riding along, I haven't read the manual, I haven't stopped and looked at it, to be honest, but when you're going along you think, how do you use it? I can't work it out. So the previous switchgear was very intuitive, I found.
What do you mean, like to change the modes and stuff?
Not just the modes, but the like cruise control or whatever it's got on the handlebar there.
Yeah, well, I've not bothered to use the cruise control because we live in the countryside, so I haven't gone on the motorway with this bike, in which case I would try it out, but I don't know how that works either, but everything else I thought was fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's all there. But I say that Harley-Davidson have hidden all that technology very well. But, you know, people complain about the price and say, oh, it hasn't got the technology. Does technology make a better bike? Does a quick shifter, when you don't have to use the clutch, make a better motorcycle? Absolutely not, does it?
No.
I mean, it makes it worse. If you love quick shifters and all that sort of automation, you might as well have an electric bike.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the motorbike world is very vastly different to the car world. But it's very interesting if you look over the period of the last 25 years, the early sort of 2005 to 2010, all the sports car and supercar manufacturers like Ferrari, etc., and Porsche, it's like, right, this is PDK, double clutch, that's the way it's going. And in 2013, they brought out, I know anyone who doesn't like cars, I'm not interested, skip forward this bit. But they brought out the GT3, the 991 it's called, that generation, and it only had PDK double clutch gearbox, no manual option. And now they're going the other way, where it's like the manual is the one that everyone wants. People want to go back to analog because they've realised that it's so much more engaging.
Yeah.
And that's what being in sort of a car or a motorbike like this, it's engaging, and that's part of the experience.
Yeah.
So if you've got a quick shifter and you just pin it open and go, bam, 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 it's boring.
Yeah, and you're not rev matching it. When you change down, you're not doing anything.
Yeah, you just whack it down.
So you're not becoming as skillful, which isn't a good thing, is it? But you know, if we're going to go that way to electric bikes eventually, then that's fine. But I've got a feeling we won't. I think it will get to a point, and something will happen, and it won't. So I'm confident that we're going to still have motorcycles like this in the future.
I am, because I think synthetic fuels are going to be the future.
Now, you might be interested to know that the Harley-Davidson Fat Boy is 35 years old this year, which is why they brought out that beautiful special edition one, which I really am drooling over a lot. So it's been going a long time, and it's made famous, of course, by Arnold Schwarzenegger in the film Terminator, where he sort of borrows someone's clothes and goes off on a Fat Boy. So it's pretty cool, and it's maintained its coolness, I think, and it has evolved over the years into a different beast, but you can still recognise it even today as a Fat Boy, and if you see an old one, you'll know it's a Fat Boy. Yeah,
it's absolutely, totally recognisable, isn't it? A few people I've seen have sort of said that they don't like the fact that the wheels aren't completely. But the original, they had round holes in them.
Did they?
Yeah, they weren't a solid wheel, I'm pretty sure. They did have holes in them. But the main reason for that is because it's such a massive thing that it's basically a wind sail. So if you've got a side wind, it just blows the motorcycle. So having the holes in there just means that it's less.
Yeah, I saw a video, I think Harley-Davidson made it, and they kind of dispelled that myth a bit. So it's hard to say whether that's true or not.
Really?
Yeah.
But the thing is, ignore that.
But the thing is, the weight of this bike, 315 kilograms, it means it's not very susceptible to being blown. So if you overtake a lorry, you don't get pushed off. Whereas if you're on a very light bike, you'll notice, you're blown everywhere by every little bit of puff of wind.
True.
So a heavy bike gives you a lot of stability. So it's not always a bad thing, the weight, is it? Now, another contentious issue these days, certainly is on our channel, is the sound of a motorcycle. Now, the standard Harley-Davidsons don't sound particularly Harley-Davidson because they have to comply with a lot of regulations. But of course, the first thing 99% of people do before they even take it out of the showroom is to do a stage 1, where you change the end cans for some slip-ons. The air filter, you wouldn't need to change the air filter on this, just the slip-ons, and do an ECU tune of some sort. A bike like this will be able to take it stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, whereas certain Italian manufacturers can't even take stage 1 apparently. So there we are. But that didn't make any difference because obviously the engine broke because it was bad casting. Now, a couple of weeks ago we did the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, which was great, and there was a couple of Harleys there that sounded awesome. One in particular was at Road King, wasn't it?
Yeah, but they did have one. There was one of these that sounded really good with a Vance and Hines Eliminator 300 exhaust, which is what you had on your.
They sound lovely.
There was a 114 brake Fat Boy.
Yeah.
Brilliant sounding bike.
The Road King that had a very loud sound, I think it was a stage 4. He did comment on the video.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
So that had some work done to it. That was awesome.
No wonder it's so loud, because it's got so much torque. I mean, how much torque is a stage 4 got? Like 200 newton meters or something ridiculous.
It might be actually. I don't know. Yeah, if you know, comment. We'd like to know.
Yeah.
But we've never felt the need to go above a stage 1 because where we ride, there's no sort of roads that are big and long enough to be able to exploit all that torque or power.
Well, I was debating before I sold my Harley doing a stage 2, but then I just decided I was just going to sell it and.
It's it's funny with Darcy's Harley. He was so into it, and he did a certain ride. And then from that day onward, he said, "I don't want to ride anymore." So, it really put you off, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. But also, I just think also it's just not, it wasn't the right bike for here, and I just found that I wasn't really riding it anymore. So yeah, there's not really any. I thought maybe doing a stage 2 would make me ride it more and sort of revive that, but I just sort of thought, no, it's time for something different.
Plus, on the channel, obviously, we need to sort of change the bikes from time to time to keep content going.
Well, no one ever.
But no one.
That bike never got more than 20,000 views on the video, which you might say, oh, you shouldn't do it. But this is our business, so we have to think of bikes that we like that also do well in a video, because otherwise there's no point, is there?
No, of course. Now, as far as Harley-Davidsons go, we've had the Street Bob, we've got the Fat Boy, and we've got the Breakout and the Lowriders coming, and we basically are working through our favourite Harley-Davidsons of the whole bunch to see which one we like the best, and maybe which one would be a perfect second bike to have. Not that I particularly need one at the moment, but it's useful for you. Yeah, hypothetically, but it might be real. Who knows?
It might be, yeah.
But at the moment, so we have this one and the Street Bob. Which do you prefer out of the two?
I think looks-wise, I prefer this because it's got more of the traditional Harley look. The Street Bob has now, with its tubeless spoke wheels, doesn't look as classic.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more urban looking, but it does look fantastic. But I think I prefer the look of this bike. I perhaps prefer the way that the Street Bob handles, because it's more, it's nicer in the bends. But it depends what you're having it for. I mean, if you're doing more longer journeys, this one.
I'd say you're right, because it's a little bit more comfortable with the foot position.
Yeah.
I'd have to change the seat, like I said. But other than that, it's a nice mile cruncher bike, but still very engaging in the twisties. Not fast in the twisties, but engaging. And engaging in enjoyment is what you get out of motorcycling, isn't it? Speed doesn't always make it more fun. Also, it makes you fear death. But so you've got to be careful.
My friend James, he'll probably be watching this. He keeps sending me things because he's decided since he went to Japan that he wants to get into motorbikes because he saw some cool looking bikes there. And initially he was really like these cafe racers, brilliant, they have lovely bikes. And now all he's doing is sending me pictures of Ducatis that are for sale, which I think are horrible. Old sports bikes, sort of 20 years old, but and he's never ridden a bike before. Said he's never even really ridden a bicycle. I think, really, want to get Ducati there? you're being a ditch, James.
Yeah.
So, anyone in the comments with some words of wisdom, tell him it's maybe not the best bike to get as a first motorbike, is it?
No. That's all right. As long as there's a wheel on it. Yeah,
that's all right then.
Yeah, a dog walking past. There's this great dog walking place behind us here. You can pay some money and put your dog in there. You've got a couple of acres. We do it from time to time. It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good.
So motorbikes, as far as so far, it's 50-50 for me between the Fat Boy and the Street Bob, which one I would have as a second bike for me.
Same here, really.
In the past, I've always loved the Breakout, and the Breakout is just something else. We've got these really raked out forks. It's long, it's low, it's mean. Got the same power and torque configuration as this one. The Street
Same
Bob's
back sort of
tuned a little
width
less
as well,
than
isn't
this
it?
one. Yeah. So this is the mid-tune, I think they call it the Custom. And then in the lowriders, they've got the higher tune, and more torque, more power, more everything, which are more sporty.
The Lowrider S is going to be a beast, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, totally.
So quick.
Yeah, I mean, I rode that a couple of years ago. I loved it.
But that was the 114, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, did you ride the 117?
114, oh, it might have been 117. But now they've changed from that sort of gold anodized or whatever it was to finish on the wheels and stuff to I think it's black, which I prefer. I never liked that gold finish.
It wasn't anodized, it was like a powder.
Paint, wasn't it? Or was it
Yeah,
some sort of brownish gold.
browny gold. Well, it's not got that anymore.
Well, no, it hasn't. It's gone away from that.
Oh, I quite like that.
I didn't like that. So yeah, it's interesting what bike choices you might want to make because I bought a very small, low-powered Royal Enfield Bullet 500, which has that lovely pop, 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 pop engine, and it's just so enjoyable riding it around the country lanes. It's just fantastic, or in the town. You've got a little rack on the back, so you can put things on the back, and it's just brilliant, so practical.
Yeah.
And of course, you could go on a long tour down to the south of France or down to Spain on it and take your time. But if I was going to do that, I would rather have something like a Harley. So the question is which one, which is the sort of point of this video, really. Now, one thing I love on this Harley-Davidson, that tank badge is absolutely stunning. It's very classic, beautiful design.
Hey, mate, you forgot to say everyone needs to press subscribe.
I did. Yes, don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos of Harley-Davidsons, Royal Enfields, modern classic motorcycles, Triumphs, you name it. We do it if it's cool.
The touring and the travel videos.
Oh yeah, and also Darcy's off to France next weekend on a custom show. What's the name of the custom show, over?
Called Wheels and Waves.
Okay, Wheels and Waves, so that's going to be an interesting video coming up. And then Darcy's off to France doing a camping trip, which will be awesome. I still don't want to get in a tent, but I may be persuaded if you comment below. Anything else I might have forgotten, over?
India.
Ah, yes, India. Now, we've nearly arranged our India trip. Oh, it's getting better and better by the day. Some of the things we've got organised is off the scale. It's going to be fantastic. I'm dribbling. Off the scale. Now, it's not just about motorcycle travelling. Obviously, that is the main point. But we're stopping in various places, eating the beautiful food, talking to people, high fives with the local kids through the villages, all that sort of thing. It's going to be absolutely epic, but times 10 from the one we did before. So honestly, it's something for all the family, not just if you're into bikes, even if you don't like motorbikes. It's going to be so engaging. So please make sure you subscribe to see that. Oh, it'll be fantastic.